hit this button, and I'm going to hit this button, and then I get to hit this button. Hey, how
Hey
y'all
everybody,
doing?
how's it
We
going today? How's everybody doing today?
happy hands, happy hands,
What have you been up to, Chris? Happy hands, happy
dude.
hands. Yeah,
I've
I'm
been
gonna try and click on
dadpreneuring
see if this
today,
doesn't turn on.
huh?
Good deal, good deal. Happy hands. Hold on, I had to mute. Okay, man, I've been in front of the computer. I woke up real bad toothache, but kind of got rid of it a little bit. But I've been in front of the computer most of the day trading, and man, it's. I was telling you about this about how slow so much stuff is,
Right,
like Bitcoin. Pretty
right.
much anything that's a SHA-256 low. I mean, it really is. It's just the way it's all done. It's, I think it's antiquated and ridiculous. I've said this a million times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It needs to be put out to pasture, I think, and not used, Um, and I was also we were talking about that, and I was explaining how the only way Bitcoin will ever get faster, just because inherently it's slow, because you got to go through all these different, all the different mining rigs, got to put up with it, and this, that, and the other. Mining rigs are uh, they're working now and they're going to be here for a while, but they'll end up being a thing of the past. There's too much energy consumption. You know what I mean? I mean, they're horrible. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
especially with everything else, proof of stake and all that, and that's just what we have right now. You know what I mean? And it was kind of funny too, because like with the Green X thing, they were talking about the proof of power, but that has nothing to do with how it works. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's a proof of work system. You know what I'm saying? It's just like mining Bitcoin. You know, it's not proof of stake. The proof of
Right.
power part of it was the whatever energy you rack up and use and all that kind of stuff and what goes through. And yeah, um, that's just what you're getting from mining. You know what I mean? That's what that was. And it's just real simple equations at this point. The algorithm's easy because there wasn't much of it. But anyways, but past that, that's just one of those things that always confused me, because they said one thing it, and I know what they were talking about, but it's not what they were doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
It, at all. It's like, no, the proof of work system. It's not, but anyways, um, but I think when Bitcoin does get to, hi everybody, when Bitcoin does get to a point to speed up, the only way I can see it happening is with the big companies getting involved and then holding it like a bank,
Right.
and then doing what's called fractional lending. And
Yeah,
so
we were talking about
basically,
that earlier.
with fractional lending, 10 times. Yeah, you can lend 10 times what you have. So if you have 10 million, we'll just say 10 million in Bitcoin, you can lend 100 million. Um,
Right.
and the way that would work is it's secure. You know what I mean? And then at that point, for that to work and that be secured, that's going to bring up another industry, which will be an insurance industry to insure those debts. And so then that's going to get into your, you can take positions on the debt and on fault,
Yep.
on the whatchamdoodle, like you stop, like the housing crunch, the people that made money when everything
Yes.
dropped, they created something new. You know what I mean? And they they're betting on the fact that it wasn't going to work, that it was going to blow up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you could do that. You could insure against it, basically. And that's what it was. I mean, in so many words, it's an insurance policy. But
Right.
that's the
And
only way that's going to get faster. I mean, it's just too damn slow. And
what
I mean,
most
last
people
night I
don't
sat here in my
realize,
first trade. It was, oh, do what? Good.
most people don't realize is that in order for this stuff to get faster, in order for it to become mainstream, what Joe's talking about, the fractional lending and things of that nature, is going to have to step in, okay? Because nobody wants to do, um, well, okay, so the people that really love cryptocurrency, they're still, hoping, praying, loving, and beg, barring, and stealing to keep it decentralized. But at the end of the day, in order for cryptocurrency to go big, to go widespread. It's never going to be completely decentralized. It's going to have to be centralized. Joe, did you freeze? Joe, you did it again. I swear. He clicked something, y'all. That boy clicked something. He cannot sit still. I'm telling you. Lord, have mercy. Okay, so what I was saying was, Joe's absolutely right. He's 1,000% right, actually. And, most people aren't going to say the things that Joe and I say because, it's economic suicide for a lot of people. Funny thing is, I had not heard those words in a very, very long time. When you've been in this industry for a while, you will hear the words economic suicide. If you've made it any any amount of height in a company, those words will get thrown at you from someone. If they care about you. So I hadn't heard those words in a very long time. They were brought up recently. Excuse me. And I realized that, Joe and I talk about things that other people won't because of economic suicide all the time. Will that be to our favor? Who knows? Will it be to our detriment? Who knows? But we're going to keep on doing it. I'm pretty sure of that. So, what I was saying was, in order for cryptocurrency to go and to go big and to be used and to get faster, there's going to have to be centralization. There's going to have to be that fractional lending. And most people don't want to hear that. Most people don't even want to think about that. But, it is what it is, okay? The opportunity for us, the average guy, I'm not going to use the word little guy because I'm by no means little. I'm 5'4" and weigh 185 pounds. I'm nobody's little. But, the average guy believed in Bitcoin. They embraced Bitcoin last year. Okay, and then something happened, and I don't really know what happened or what caused it to happen, or if it was a plant, or if it was the big guys that really intended for it to happen anyway. Probably. But what happened was the faith was lost in crypto. And so when the faith got lost in crypto, people began to jump out, okay? The only thing that drives this currency, y'all, the only thing that drives this currency is faith and belief, okay? Now, the funny thing about this is that's all that drives most currencies, okay? Think about this. Let's step back for a minute, okay? Let's go back to Cowboys and Indians, all right? Let's say the Cowboys assigned $5 value to a rock, okay? Now, all the Cowboys got excited, right? Because they all got these rocks that are about the same size and same shape, right? And they're worth $5 a piece. Now, we're just making this as we go, right? So they go to the Indians and they want to buy pelts, and they want to use the medicine men and all these other things. And so the cowboy has to convince the Indian that the rock is worth money. Okay, that it's a value of trade back and forth, right? Now, what do you think happened? It took some time, right? But eventually, right, the the Indians embraced what the white man, cowboy, whatever, said, and said, you know what, we're going to take this in. We're going to keep this. We're going to agree that this rock is worth $5. Same exact thing happened over and over and over again with every currency that has ever been created. All right. Now this time, the internet played a really big part in this new currency. And it allowed the average guy, us, right? It allowed the average guy an opportunity to win for the first time ever in history. Okay? And people began to understand that. And, I think I know what happened to crypto, and I'm just going to throw my theory out there. But I think that what really happened to crypto was this. Decentralization was talked about. It was evangelized. People in crypto, people that owned Bitcoin were talking about it. And they were taking it to the street, so to speak, right? So they were preaching the gospel of the Bitcoin, all right? And they believed in it, and they held on to it, and they drove the price up, right? And then the price started coming down a little bit in January, and people started not talking so much about Bitcoin, right? They stopped evangelizing the coin itself, having faith in the coin and the value of the coin. And then suddenly they started talking about how much money they were making. Okay. So we switched from talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to money. And so there was a shift. There was a shift in the tide again, right? And so because the words were not being spoken, the words that were being spoken was how much money I've made, how many dollars I've made, how many thousands I've made, how much money I'm pulling out of the bank and putting somewhere else. Okay? This is what was being talked about instead of how much Bitcoin I have, how much Bitcoin I have, how much Bitcoin I've built up. Okay? So the tide shifted and it went from Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to money. That's what happened to cryptocurrency. Okay? And the less it was talked about, the less it was worth. All right? And so now we have this digital currency, right? Well, the feds and the governments, they said, oh, we're really kind of glad this thing kind of came along because our time with our money was running out. Our ability to continue to keep people's faith in the US dollar and the euro and the yen and all these other things that are out there, the peso, it's running out. People are losing faith in the value of our currency. So now's a great time to think about shifting. They've already created this thing. A lot of people embraced it. I say a lot. What, 2% maybe of the world population? I don't know. We'll go out on a limb and say 3%. 3% of the world population. And, they're banking, the big guys, they're banking on the fact that we embraced it one time. And we saw the vision one time. And that we will help ease it into the marketplace. That's what they're banking on. That's my theory. I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but, I do have my thoughts, and I really do think that that's probably exactly what happened because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are only driven by the faith that people have in them. Okay? Just like the dollar, people have lost faith in the dollar. It used to be in my grandfather's time when I was a kid, to be a millionaire was a big deal. It was a lot of money, right? Now kids talk about billionaires and trillionaires, okay? Because the $5 bill, if you give someone a $5 bill and a birthday card now, they look at you and go, really? Where's the zero? Right? Because the 5 is worth, it's not worth what it used to be. They can't buy what they used to could buy with it, right? So, you guys give that some thought. Y'all let that ponder around in your head. Come back with some thoughts on that. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. Hey, it's okay. Hey, Joe, you came back. Dude, you pushed a button. I know what you did. You pushed a trade or something, and bloop, there you went. So, um, you know, we're all going to grow. We're going to grow together. Is crypto going anywhere? Absolutely not. Okay. Is Bitcoin going anywhere? Absolutely not. Has faith in it got to be restored? Yes. Is it too late? Is it too late to be completely decentralized? I think that ship has passed, and I think that the government is stepping in now, and I think the big guys are coming in, and I think they see it as a way of controlling the mass wealth in the world. And I really believe that they're going to depend on us average guys to help them, transition into this new world currency. And I'm not saying it's going to be one world currency. I believe that all the countries will have their own versions of their own crypto, blah 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 blah. Just like we all have our own versions now, you know. But I do think that digital currency will be, how we go. All right. It's very, very simple. And I tell you why I think that. We have become so dependent on this little device right here. Okay. This device right here revolutionized the world. I used to carry a day planner. What do I need a day planner for anymore? All the information to the world is right here at my fingertips, right? And if I want to call Patty, I just look her up. Nowadays, you don't even have to have somebody's telephone number. You just need to know their name. If they've got a mobile number, most likely it's going to pop up. It's going to pop up, you know? Um, Patty, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know, I like the idea. I loved the idea. That's what got me in. That's what got me in to Bitcoin to begin with. Okay, was the decentralization, the getting away from the U.S. dollar. Um, Now having been in going on 2 years, um, I just don't. I don't know that I believe that is even possible now. See, so much centralization has stepped in already, and the banks, they see it as a way to get rich all over again. Because just like Joe was talking about, the insurance companies are going to have to come in and they're going to have to insure. Banks are going to have to do fractional lending. Loaning is going to become, as simple as I want to borrow XYZ, and they look you up on your on online, right? They have a digital file, and they say, okay, well, your name's worth X amount of dollars. Here you go. You know, it's going to revolutionize the world as far as speed goes. So what do I mean by that? Well, just think about how fast you could buy a piece of property or a car, or it's going to, and someone said this to me early on in my career with Bitcoin. They said Bitcoin's going to cost it's going to cost a lot of jobs. And I laughed and I said, I don't think so. Now, having been in this as long as I've been in it, I say, yeah, it's going to cost a lot of jobs, but it's going to create even more jobs. Okay? Because the technology of this is going to have to be brought into everything that we know. Do you think people are going to stop borrowing whatever type of currency we use? Absolutely not. Do you think insurance companies are going to stop writing insurance policies and charging people astronomical amounts of money when the vast majority of people never use their insurance? They never collect. No, they're not. Um, you know, do you think that um, you know loan officers, insurance agents, realtors, bankers, lawyers, all of those type of people are going to stop making money? Absolutely not. They're going to have to incorporate this new currency, and with that is going to create a ton of new jobs simply because you're going to have to know how to work with this technology. You're not going to be able to just say, oh, I'm going to take this technology. That's not good enough. Okay? It's going to have to be, I understand this. This is how it works. This is how we implement it. This is how we put it into our business model. And this is where we're going to go because we do that. That is what's going to happen. And so, yes, Patty, I totally agree with you. I agree that it is going to create many, many jobs. I also agree banks and government are using us at this point. You know, I used to think maybe the banks or maybe the government, maybe the powers that be created this thing called Bitcoin, right? And that's why we don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. I'm leaning away from that now. And you know, I go back and forth on it. Sometimes I think, you know, our government's pretty smart. They did this and they're just playing ignorant. And then other times I think, you know what? They were too worried about all this other stuff going on around the world. They were not thinking about the next currency. However, the next currency's been created, and now they're going to step in and they're going to centralize everything, take over, and put it into play. So, you know, I know, Patty, me too. Really, you know, I think crypto. I think crypto for those early adopters, people like us, right? I think crypto is still going to make many average men very wealthy. Okay? But they're going to have to change their stinking thinking. And they're going to have to go with sharing is caring. Okay? Because it's going to take many minds. It's going to take many minds to stay on top of this and figure out how to stay just far enough ahead of everything to make that money. I am glad that I'm in the circle that I'm in with the people that I am with because, you know, I believe that we will all be very successful and we will make ourselves a lot of whatever this thing becomes or is or you know, replaces. Okay? Now, I used to think that we had I used to think that we would have dual currency. In other words, we would continue to have what we have as the United States money system, right? And then that the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency would run alongside of it. I used to think that. Now, and I thought that because I felt like we could keep it mostly decentralized. All right. So now I'm having to say, that's not going to happen. So did I change my thought process? Do I still think that we will become one currency in the U.S. and other countries, or do I think we're going to run dual? Well, I think for a while yet, we are going to continue to run dual. Okay, and the reason that I think that is we only have one state, that's Ohio, that takes Bitcoin as payment for taxes. Okay, there are 49 other states and then all of the province and territories, right? Additional to that, you have a vast majority of people. Well, I shouldn't say it. Well, yeah, a vast majority of people that don't have bank accounts, but they also do not have access to, you know, a steady internet connection, a secure internet connection, a steady phone. You know, a lot of people are paying for their phones nowadays monthly, right? And you know, what I mean to say is we all pay monthly, and that didn't come out right. I apologize. Okay, so a lot of people are paying with the card thing, right? Like you can get a card and you can reactivate your phone and you can put so many minutes or so much money on it or whatever. And a lot of those people, I'd say probably 50% of those people, and I'm just guessing, they're without their phone for a day or two or longer at a time, right? Because maybe they're waiting for their next paycheck or whatever. So they're not able to bridge that gap. So there's days where, and time and hours where they would not be able to access their funds, right? If we went completely digital and a person only has a phone, which when I got into crypto, you couldn't use the phone. Couldn't use the phone. It wasn't mobile compatible. Now it's mobile compatible. So if they only have a phone, they don't have a computer, they don't have a tablet, they don't have, a laptop, an iPad. They only have their phone, and for whatever reason, their phone is out of service, then they can't access their money. So I think, and then you've got another group of people, right? Like by far and large, and I know Bethany's in the baby boomer group, and I'm not talking about her, but by far and large, most of the baby boomers, my parents were baby boomers. There's no way my parents would have ever in your life switched over to digital currency and or trusted it, much less used their phone to balance their accounts and pay for stuff. Not going to happen. Okay? So you have got a vast majority of those people and older, right, that are not going to embrace the digital currency. They're just not. So until there's a death die out, and I know that sounds terrible, and I apologize for the way that sounds, but until there's a death die out flush, right, up to about my generation, somewhere around my generation, right, you would never be able to completely go digital because there are some people that just can't. They won't, they don't know how. It's not going to happen. So I believe very strongly that we will remain dual currency for a while. Okay, I don't know how long. I don't know how long it'll take for all the baby boomers and older to exit the planet. I'm definitely not wishing anybody to leave, but I'm just saying, I figure there's probably somebody out there that could calculate or project and or take a stab in the dark at an approximate date and time, right? That could happen. How accurate it would be, I'm not sure. But I can tell you that as long as there are people walking the planet that don't have digital access, how would you switch those people over to digital currency? I and one might argue, right? One might argue, yes, absolutely, Patty. One might argue that we could just cut them off, right? Like do a force switch. We could just cut them off. We could just come on one day, over the television or whatever, and announce that the dollar is no longer a currency. It's not worth anything. A lot of other countries have done that, but their countries went bankrupt. That wasn't because they were switching to crypto. Okay? Now, you could do that, right? But I think that you would force yourself into a situation as a country. We would force ourselves into more poverty, right? More, more. Hey, Mr. Robertson, more need. Okay, so more need to help people, more need to facilitate services that are already stressed and very difficult to use at best now. Okay, so I don't think that we'll wake up one day in our lifetime anyway and they'll just announce, "Hey, paper money's no good anymore." They thought they were going to do that when they came out with the debit cards and credit cards. That was their plan then. They wanted to get rid of paper money then. That's been a while back. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now, and for a lot of the same reasons. Okay, for a lot of the same reasons. You've got that very vast community that's just, baby boomers and older. You're not going to make them. Okay, they're going to grab a gun and go to their local government office, and they're going to they're going to put it in somebody's face and say, "Give me my money back." I mean, it's just, yes, it can happen. Yes, I believe it will happen. Yes, I think it's a great idea to go digital, but I also believe that we have time, and I'm encouraging those folks that agree with me, those folks that are like-minded with me, or think similarly, even parallel to what I'm thinking. I encourage those folks to create all the wealth that they possibly can. Okay. Now, someone asked me a while back. They asked me, said, "Well, Chris, are you more crypto or are you more U.S. dollar?" And I'm going to be honest. I'm trying to stay 50-50. I'm trying to stay balanced the best that I can. There's a reason for that. If they kill crypto, I won't be standing in the dark with my pants down. If they kill the dollar, I won't be standing in the middle of the street with my pants down. Okay? So I am preparing my family's future, my son's future, the best way I know how, and that's through dual currencies. Okay? Now, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. I would love to know if you all are thinking similarly, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Heck, I love for somebody to disagree with me just so we can bat it back and forth, you know? Um, because at the end of the day, that's how we grow. It's how we learn, right? It's how we stretch our minds and how we stretch ourselves as people. If everybody agrees with everything, um, or everybody just kind of nods and goes on with whatever anyone else is saying, then at what point does the mind stop growing? It starts to shrink, right? And so it's going to go from a pretty good sized dense part of our anatomy to the size of a pea because we don't use it. We just agree with everything everybody says. Um, Now, is it nice to be amongst people who think and believe the way we do? Absolutely. Absolutely. However, even with the people that you love and care about, even with the people that think similarly to you, you still need to have opposing thought. Okay? It is most definitely the best way for us to grow, the best way for us to learn. So sometimes I will oppose people just not because I don't agree with them, not because I'm not thinking exactly like they are, but just because I want to be the devil's advocate and I want to stretch whomever I'm speaking to or the group that I'm speaking to. I want to stretch their minds. I want to stretch their imaginations. I want to stretch their ability to think outside of the actual thought process that we're in. Okay? So that being said, I'm not telling people, hey, take all your liquid cash and throw it into crypto. No. But I'm also not telling everybody, hey, liquidate all your crypto and throw it into cash. No. So, rich is a word. Rich is a word. I used to believe, okay, and listen to me carefully because this is going to be hard for me to articulate, and I hope I get my point across. I hope I get the thought process across correctly. I used to believe that rich was an adjective, okay? That person is rich. Oh, that family is rich, right? As I've grown older, I've learned that many people have many different definitions of rich. Yeah. And I used to believe that wealthy and rich were one and the same. And I now know differently. Okay. You can be rich in the sense that you have more money than God and you don't know what to do with it. Okay. And still be the poorest person on the planet. And you say, well, Chris, how can that be? That's an oxymoron. Well, it may be, but it's very true. It's very valid. Think about it. Okay? You can also be one of the poorest people on the planet. You might not have two nickels to rub together and be one of the richest people in someone's circle. Well, how can that be? How can that be? Well, see, wealth is measured in financial attribute. Okay? How much money does one have? That is their amount of wealth. Okay? Rich, on the other hand, refers to wealth at some points. It can refer to a person's mindset. It can refer to the taste of something. That cheesecake is very rich. Okay? Now, why would I bring this up? I bring it up because I want people to be educated. I don't want people walking around trying to help other people and not being in the right mindset, and using the most appropriate words. We, on this call right now, are all very rich people. Okay? We are rich by the world's standards. Okay? Because we have so many opportunities, so many conveniences, so many material things, so much ability to create things at our fingertips. Okay, it makes us very rich people. All right, we have the internet. Everybody on this call right now has the internet at their disposal. Okay, that is not how it works around the globe. Trust me. Okay, we have having wealth or great possessions abundantly supplied with resources, means, or funds. Wealthy, a rich man, a rich nation, abundant in natural resources, a rich territory. Very good. Thank you, Patty. Love Patty. She's always on it like white on rice. I love that. So, also, if we don't have, if I get up this morning and I don't have any money, any dollar bills, okay, I can leave my house that morning, and by the time I come back that afternoon, I can have money in my hands and pockets, okay? I can collect scrap. I can pick up cans, right? I could go to work for someone for the day. I could go clean a house, right? I could drive somebody somewhere, okay? And those are just a few of the things that come to the top of my head. You know, I could sit down and probably write page after page after page after page of things that I could do to come back home and have money. You cannot you cannot convince me that that's not rich. Okay? Rich in today's world means different things than it used to mean. Okay? When you're talking about someone, know that there are more than one definition to a word. Know that there is more than one way to bridge the gap between you and the person you're speaking to. Okay? You know, it's amazing to me that we have the abilities that we have in the United States of America, and we are some of the most ungrateful, whiny, expectant people, and I could go on. Believe me, I'm cutting myself off to be nice, because the further I go, the worse it'll get. We're some of the most ungrateful people on the planet. On the planet, okay? We have running electricity in our homes. We take it for granted every day. We have cell phones that we never have to worry about the bill being cut off because we pay the bill every month. It's no big deal. It's just another bill that we pay, right? We have food in the cabinets because we have a multitude of places to go and get said food. Now, we won't talk about the fact that the food's not any good for us, but we're talking about the fact that we have it, okay? We have vehicles. We don't have to walk or ride horses or ride a bicycle. There's so many things that make us rich beyond belief. Beyond belief, okay? I learned this lesson, and I want to share this with you all. I learned this lesson about the word rich from my grandmother. My grandmother was 93 when she passed away, God love her, just a couple years ago, and she was one of the smartest people I know or knew. All right? There was nothing that woman couldn't do. Because if you told her she couldn't do something, she's going to bust hell wide open to prove to you that she could. And she did many times in her life. But she woke me up, if you will, to the fact of rich. Because when my grandparents came to the United States from Cuba, they were allowed to leave the country with 6 articles of clothing and nothing more. Now, what most people don't realize is that my grandparents were very wealthy. They owned 2/3 of the Bacardi Rum Company. They had a stake in Pan America in Santiago de Cuba. They had many different things happening, okay? They didn't have to leave the country. They chose to leave the country because they wanted to better their family. When they came here, when they came here, they learned very quickly that wealth is different from rich. When you come to the country, you can't speak the language. You have 6 items of clothes. The poorest man in America looked wealthy. Looked rich. Rich beyond their wildest imagination. And my grandparents just couldn't understand why people complained why people didn't have more, why people in the U.S. were so ungrateful and needy and expectant and on and on and on, because they didn't have the opportunities in Cuba that we have in the United States. If you didn't learn anything today, learn this. You're very rich. You really are. If you haven't read the book Born Rich, you need to. We're all rich beyond most people's wildest imaginations. We have an abundance of clothes. Not one person on this call right now, not one person has to go into their bedroom and say, "Oh God, I only have 3 outfits," right? I only have 1 pair of shoes and they have holes in the bottom, right? I only have 1 bra, 1 pair of underwear, right? See, these are things that we take for granted. We in America think if we're not driving a Bentley, we don't live in a mansion, we don't have a helicopter or a plane, we're not rich. My, how wrong we are. We have each other. That one thing alone makes us rich beyond wildest imaginations, because people can depend on each other. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, all those who are out there playing today, thank y'all for coming. Don't really know where this came from today. I guess it was just meant to be. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something from it. Remember 50-50. Try to stay balanced in your currencies. You know, are you always going to be balanced? Probably not. One's probably always going to outweigh the other, and it may seesaw back and forth, but that's okay. Just know that we are creating that financial gain, that win, if you will, for our families. For our families. Okay? Love each and every one of you guys. Hate Joe froze up. He was probably trading. I'm going to whoop him. We love y'all. Come back and see us tomorrow, and have a fantastic day. Bye, everybody.